The cameras always captured the smiles, the carefully timed waves, the polished image of a modern royal family standing together beneath palace balconies and cathedral arches. But according to whispers that circulated quietly through royal circles, one tense moment behind closed doors changed the atmosphere inside the palace forever. And at the center of it all were three people: Catherine, Princess of Wales, Queen Camilla, and young Princess Charlotte. It reportedly began during a private family gathering at Windsor. Nothing public, no press photographers, no official statements. Just another carefully arranged royal weekend where appearances mattered almost as much as tradition itself. The luncheon had been organized to celebrate one of Camilla's literacy initiatives, and several members of the extended royal household had attended. Staff moved quietly through the halls with silver trays and tea services while conversations floated through the historic rooms of the castle. At first glance, everything appeared normal. Catherine arrived with Prince William and their children looking calm and composed as always. George was energetic, Louis restless and playful, and Charlotte unusually quiet. Catherine noticed it immediately. Mothers always do. Charlotte normally carried herself with confidence beyond her years, greeting adults politely and laughing easily with her brothers. But that afternoon she stayed close to Catherine's side, speaking softly and avoiding attention. Catherine tried not to overthink it. Royal gatherings could be exhausting for children. Every movement was watched, every word corrected. Still, something about Charlotte's expression bothered her. As the afternoon continued, the adults gathered in one of the formal sitting rooms while the children were guided toward a smaller salon where games and snacks had been prepared. It was meant to be relaxed, but in royal terms, relaxed still meant perfect posture, careful manners, and quiet voices. Catherine kissed Charlotte gently on the forehead before leaving the room. "Have fun, darling," she whispered. Charlotte nodded, though her smile looked forced. Nearly an hour later, Catherine stepped away from a conversation with one of the palace aides after spotting Charlotte walking alone through a side corridor. The young princess moved slowly, staring down at the carpet beneath her shoes. Catherine's instincts immediately sharpened. She followed her daughter toward one of the quieter hallways near the servant staircase. "Charlotte," she asked softly. The little girl stopped. "Is everything all right?" Charlotte hesitated for several seconds before answering. "I'm fine." But Catherine knew the difference between fine and hurt. She knelt slightly so she could look directly into her daughter's eyes. "What happened?" Charlotte shifted nervously. "Granny Camilla said I talked too much." The words landed harder than Catherine expected. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully. "We were playing a game," Charlotte explained quietly, "and I answered before the others did. She said ladies shouldn't always try to be the center of attention." For a moment, Catherine said nothing at all. She simply pulled Charlotte into a hug and held her close. On the outside, she remained calm, but internally something had changed. Catherine had spent years navigating complicated royal relationships. She understood personalities, hierarchy, and the silent tensions that existed beneath formal smiles. But hearing that one of those tensions had reached her daughter was something entirely different. Later that afternoon, Catherine began noticing things she had ignored before. During tea, Charlotte reached for another pastry and Camilla casually remarked, "Careful, darling. Royal ladies are remembered for elegance, not appetite." The comment was delivered with a smile. Anyone overhearing it might have dismissed it as harmless. But Catherine saw Charlotte immediately pull her hand back. Then came another moment during a family discussion about music. Charlotte excitedly mentioned learning a new piano piece, only for Camilla to respond, "Confidence is wonderful, but modesty is even more important for young girls." Again, subtle. Again, impossible to challenge publicly without appearing dramatic. Yet Catherine noticed the same pattern every time. Charlotte grew quieter after each interaction. That evening, back at Adelaide Cottage, Catherine tucked Charlotte into bed herself. The palace residence was finally peaceful after a long day of obligations. William remained downstairs reviewing briefing papers, while George and Louis were already asleep. Catherine sat beside Charlotte carefully. "You know you can always tell me if something upsets you." Charlotte looked uncertain. "I don't think she likes me very much," she admitted softly. Catherine's heart tightened. "Sweetheart, this is important." None of this is your fault. Charlotte nodded but remained silent. Some people, Catherine continued gently, believe children should behave a certain way. But being kind, intelligent, and confident is not wrong. Never let anyone make you feel small for that. After Charlotte fell asleep, Catherine walked downstairs where William immediately noticed the expression on her face. "What happened?" he asked. Catherine told him everything. Every remark, every subtle jab, every moment Charlotte had shrunk into herself throughout the day. William listened carefully, growing visibly colder as the conversation continued. "She's a child," he finally said quietly. "I know," Catherine replied, "and she's beginning to notice it." For years, Catherine had worked hard to maintain peace within the royal structure. She understood the importance of unity, particularly after years of public drama surrounding the monarchy. But privately, she had limits. And according to palace insiders, Charlotte had become one of them. The tension continued over the next several weeks. At another private family dinner hosted at Highgrove, Charlotte reportedly asked if she could play piano after dinner. Before she could even stand, Camilla allegedly responded, "Perhaps tonight should be about listening rather than performing." The room reportedly fell silent. Charlotte sat back down immediately. This time Catherine didn't wait until later. She was only asking politely, Catherine said evenly. Camilla reportedly looked surprised by the interruption. "I was simply encouraging manners." "And she has them," Catherine replied. The exchange was brief but unmistakably tense. Several staff members later claimed the atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Charles attempted to redirect the conversation, while William remained unusually quiet. But things escalated further during a summer stay at Balmoral Castle. Balmoral had long been considered the royal family's retreat from public pressure. Surrounded by forests, hills, and quiet Scottish landscapes, it was one of the few places where the royals could behave more naturally. The children usually loved it there. George explored the grounds endlessly. Louis chased staff members through the gardens, and Charlotte often spent afternoons sketching flowers near the estate's greenhouses. For the first few days, things seemed calmer. Camilla kept some distance. Catherine remained watchful but polite. William focused on spending time with Charles outdoors. The fragile piece appeared to be holding together. Then came the afternoon that reportedly changed everything. Catherine had been meeting with staff inside one of the drawing rooms when a palace aide quietly informed her that Charlotte was alone with Camilla in the sunroom overlooking the gardens. Something about the situation unsettled her immediately. She excused herself and walked quickly down the corridor. As she approached the room, she heard voices. Camilla's voice carried first. "You must learn not to interrupt adults so often, Charlotte. It can come across as attention-seeking." Then came Charlotte's smaller voice. "I was only telling Grandpa about the horses." Catherine opened the door instantly. Charlotte turned immediately toward her mother. Camilla remained seated calmly beside the window. "We were just having a conversation," she said lightly. Catherine crossed the room and placed a hand gently on Charlotte's shoulder. "She doesn't need to be corrected every time she speaks," Catherine replied. Camilla reportedly gave a restrained smile. "I'm trying to help her understand royal expectations." "She's 9 years old," Catherine answered firmly. "Not a courtier." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. For the first time, Catherine was no longer disguising her frustration beneath royal politeness. Years of restraint had finally begun slipping away. According to several palace rumors, the confrontation that followed later that evening became one of the most uncomfortable family dinners in recent memory. The royal family had gathered around one of Balmoral's long dining tables. Staff moved carefully around the room while conversation remained strained and unusually formal. Charlotte stayed close to William and barely spoke. At one point, Camilla allegedly made another remark about children learning discipline early. That was enough. Catherine calmly placed her fork down and looked directly across the table. "With respect," she said, "Charlotte is a happy, intelligent child. She does not need to feel criticized every time she enters a room." Silence spread instantly across the table. Charles reportedly shifted uncomfortably while several aides froze entirely. Camilla attempted to dismiss the tension. "You're overreacting." "No," Catherine replied steadily. "I'm protecting my daughter." William then reportedly spoke for the first time during the exchange. "And I agree with my wife. That changed everything." Because within royal circles, unity between William and Catherine carried enormous weight. Palace insiders often described them as careful strategists who rarely acted emotionally in front of others. If both of them were confronting the issue directly, then it was serious. Camilla reportedly became defensive. "I raised children myself," she said sharply. "I know how important discipline is. And encouragement matters too," Catherine answered. "Children remember how adults make them feel." The room reportedly remained tense for the rest of the evening. Dinner ended earlier than expected, and several family members quietly disappeared into separate parts of the estate afterward. Later that night, Catherine sat beside Charlotte again before bed. "You never have to change who you are to make other people comfortable," she told her daughter. Charlotte looked up quietly. "Even if they are older." "Especially then," Catherine answered. By the following morning, palace staff allegedly noticed a visible shift in behavior. Camilla kept more distance from the Wales children. Conversations became more formal. Interactions were shorter. Publicly, however, nothing appeared different. Official photographs from Balmoral still showed smiling family members standing together in coordinated outfits beneath the Scottish sun. That was the reality of royal life. The public image always came first. Still, insiders claimed Catherine had privately drawn a permanent boundary after Balmoral. Charlotte would no longer attend certain private gatherings without one of her parents present. Invitations became more selective. Interactions were more carefully managed. And according to persistent royal rumors, Catherine's protective stance earned quiet respect from many within palace circles. Staff members had reportedly noticed how attentive she was with all three children, particularly when it came to preserving their confidence despite royal pressures. Unlike previous generations raised under colder traditions, William and Catherine were believed to prioritize emotional security and normalcy whenever possible. That difference in parenting styles may have been part of the deeper tension all along. Camilla came from a far more traditional worldview where restraint, correction, and hierarchy mattered enormously. Catherine, meanwhile, represented a newer approach to royal parenting, one centered on openness, reassurance, and emotional support. The clash between those two philosophies reportedly created friction long before anyone noticed it publicly. Over time, the situation slowly cooled. Public appearances continued smoothly. Holiday photographs looked flawless. During official events, Catherine and Camilla behaved courteously toward one another. But palace insiders claimed the relationship never fully returned to what it had once been. Something fundamental had shifted, because Catherine had shown that when it came to her children, especially Charlotte, there was a line she would never allow anyone to cross. And according to those closest to the family, once Catherine reached that point, there was no going back. In many ways, the story revealed something the public rarely sees behind royal tradition and ceremony. Beyond the titles, the palaces, and the endless media attention, there are still ordinary family dynamics hiding underneath. Protectiveness, hurt feelings, generational disagreements, mothers defending daughters, grandparents believing they know best. The difference is that inside royal walls, even the smallest comment can echo louder than anyone expects. And for Catherine, the future queen, protecting Princess Charlotte reportedly became more important than protecting appearances. Whether every whispered detail is true or not, one thing remains clear. Catherine's image over the years has been built not only on grace and diplomacy, but also on fierce loyalty to her children. And if palace rumors are to be believed, that loyalty finally surfaced in a way the royal household could no longer ignore. What do you think? Was Catherine right to step in immediately? Or do you think the tension was simply a clash between old-fashioned royal expectations and modern parenting?